everybody. Hope you're doing well. So, we are back with more from the OCD workbook. The third edition is what I am reading from and referencing here. So, this is going to be chapter 9. And in chapter 9, we're going to be talking about the concept of acceptance and mindfulness and how those approaches OCD helps us to learn fully or live fully despite having OCD. So, the quote here for the day is by Robert J. McCain, which goes as follows. The reason most goals are not achieved is that we spend our time doing second things first. So have you ever noticed that the more you try to fix certain types of problems, the more things stay the same or even get worse? This book is largely about techniques designed to help you get rid of your OCD, and they can and do help enormously. But sometimes, no matter how diligently people use the tools of cognitive behavioral therapy, otherwise known as CBT, pesky symptoms persist. Indeed, some symptoms may persist because you're unwilling to, quote unquote, try hard or challenge yourself. With difficult exposures, even though ultimately they can be freeing. However, even if you're very experienced with CBT and seemingly applying the techniques well, you can become so focused on trying hard and even harder that it has a paradoxical effect of keeping your anxiety high and keeping you stuck in obsessions. We refer to this as being obsessive about obsessing. You can be so consumed with getting rid of your symptoms that you put your life on hold and actually create another obsession. Well, stop right there. Get off the fixing treadmill. Stop trying and start living in spite of your symptoms. A new so-called third wave therapy is designed to help you do just that. It's called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, pronounced as one word, not the individual letters, and it just may be the next big thing. In the cognitive behavioral treatment of anxiety disorders, including OCD. So, from the viewpoint of ACT or ACT, you can control your compulsions, but not necessarily your obsessions and anxiety. When you can think of the goal as controlling your compulsive behaviors, rather than controlling your obsessive thoughts and anxiety, you will see your OCD in a whole new way. Now it's time to talk a little bit more about what exactly acceptance and commitment therapy is. So acceptance and commitment therapy was developed in the mid-1980s by a Dr. Stephen Hayes, a psychology professor at the University of Nevada, Reno, who has since been quietly transforming the ways that mental health professionals think about a whole range of disorders, including OCD. While the ACT approach to helping OCD is consistent with the cognitive behavioral principles underlying exposure and response prevention, it differs in several important ways. ACT doesn't focus on getting rid of painful thoughts, feelings, and experiences, and in fact, it views these as inevitable in life. Instead, it's oriented toward learning how to live more in the present, with more of a focus on your goals and values, while making room for difficult internal experiences. ACT teaches people how to engage with painful thoughts and feelings, and how to become more comfortable with them through acceptance and mindfulness. Another important goal of ACT is developing self-compassion and flexibility. All of these aspects are aimed at helping people build life-enhancing patterns of behavior. ACT isn't about overcoming pain or fighting thoughts or emotions. It's about embracing life and experiencing everything it has to offer, both the positive, such as joy, and the challenges, including fear, anxiety, and worry. ACT offers a way out of suffering by helping you learn how to live your life, the life you most desire, while experiencing whatever you experience along the way. In the following pages, we can only provide you with a brief glimpse of what ACT is all about. If you find this approach appealing, there are many books and other resources available to help you learn more about ACT. See the resources section for details on some of these. ACT has evolved within a solid scientific tradition, and a thriving research community is actively engaged in examining the basic science underlying ACT and the effectiveness of applying ACT techniques to numerous life problems, including OCD, anxiety disorders, depression, and substance use, just to name a few. The ACT model is based on 6 core principles that play an important role in behavioral and psychological flexibility. In this chapter, we'll take a look at how each can be helpful in breaking free from OCD. So these 6 core principles are as follows: experiential acceptance versus avoidance, contact with the present moment or mindfulness, cognitive diffusion versus fusion, self as context or the observing self, values, and last but not least, committed action. Experiential avoidance versus experiential acceptance. OCD symptoms are sustained by attempts to avoid internal experiences such as doubt, anxiety, and worry. But thoughts and feelings aren't the problem from the perspective ACT. Your efforts to control or avoid them are. Avoidance of pain and discomfort works well in the material physical world. However, avoidance of our private inner experiences, our thoughts, feelings, impulses, sensations, and urges, doesn't work. The phrase, whatever you resist persists, is highly relevant here, something we'll discuss in greater detail in Chapter 10. Avoidance only gives those uncomfortable inner sensations and feelings more power. Also, consider the cost of your avoidance behaviors. How have you altered your life in attempts to avoid anxiety and obsessions? Our guess is these strategies have made your life smaller, not larger. Experiential acceptance is the remedy to the quicksand of avoidance. Acceptance can be defined as the act of taking or receiving something that is offered. From an ACT perspective, it means being willing to make room for unpleasant feelings, sensations, and urges, allowing them to come and go without struggling with them, avoiding them, or paying excessive attention to them. Acceptance of uncomfortable inner experiences doesn't mean defeat or giving up. In regard to OCD, the willingness to experience previously avoided thoughts, no matter how repulsive or scary, where were we at? Is a prerequisite to achieving freedom from the terror of those thoughts. However, from an ACT perspective, the goal of treatment isn't necessarily to rid yourself of these thoughts. It's learning to not buy into the content of the thoughts and learning to pursue valued directions in life despite their presence. Everyone experiences horrific thoughts from time to time, and the truth is, typically they gently and naturally move to the background of awareness if you don't actively avoid them and instead vigorously pursue a course of life you value. So I hope you all appreciate this. Remember, this is just a reading. It's info, not medical advice, for entertainment and educational purposes only, and is not a substitute for therapy or medical treatment of any sort. It's not meant to diagnose or treat. In our next video, what I will be talking about is things such as contact with the present moment, formal mindfulness-based meditation, informal mindfulness skills from OCD, and cognitive fusion versus diffusion, amongst other things. We'll even get into some of the spiritual stuff within acceptance and commitment therapy and touch on Buddhist principles for mindfulness. So I hope you all enjoyed, guys. And as always, let me know what you think down below. What's been your experience with OCD?